Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Walking 90. I'm Chip Nelson. I'll be your host today. And I am joined by the president of Union Omaha and the Omaha Storm Chasers, Mr. Martie Cordaro. How are you doing today, Martie?
Chip, thanks for having me this afternoon.
Great. So for those of you listening on delay, we are recording this on February 2nd in the late afternoon. So if something super exciting happens in the League One or with Union Omaha, we didn't forget to cover it. It just hasn't happened yet. So we are joined with Martie. For those of you in Omaha, he needs no introduction. But for some of those outside of Omaha, Martie kind of handles a lot of the executive roles for Union Omaha, as well as the Storm Chasers, who are Union Omaha's roommate, if you will, at Warner Park, where they play their games. So, Martie, you're not originally a soccer guy. You have a really fun backstory, including playing in some Grateful Dead cover bands. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with you, kind of what's been your journey up to this point, and how'd you end up in the world of soccer?
Well, look, I'm nearly 50, and I'm still doing things that I started when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So and I'm working in sports. So I've lived a very blessed, great life. Been in Omaha since I guess technically I started work here October of '06, but my path started back in Ruston, Louisiana. That's where I was born, raised, went to high school, graduated, went to college at Louisiana Tech University, and the shortest version of a long story. Started in education through playing music professionally, dropped out of college a while. When I went back, I changed my major to marketing. And I played baseball all throughout my young life through high school, and then thought I was going to be a baseball coach. Obviously, that changed. And when I changed my major to marketing, I started working for the baseball program at Louisiana Tech. That was 96 through 98. Graduated in November of 98, and then I went to the baseball winter meetings in Nashville in December of that year. And that's when I got my first professional sports sales job, selling group tickets to the smallest communities outside of Jackson, Tennessee, which wasn't a big market to start with, and made $600 a month. And that was my start. And that was the journey to Omaha to come and close Rosenblatt down and to move AAA baseball out of the state. I screwed up and I didn't do that. And we landed at Warner Park, obviously. Storm Chasers started, and because we were able to keep AAA baseball here, not indirectly, but directly, we're able to start soccer. And that's something that I forget, and I don't know how many people know that, because if AAA baseball would have left in 2011, which we thought that was going to happen, you and I probably never would have met, Chip, and we probably wouldn't be doing this podcast. But in between Jackson, I went to Birmingham, Alabama for a couple of years. Then I went to Battle Creek, Michigan for a couple of years, and then landed here. So I have a variety of experiences in a variety of markets, some of which are better than others, some of which don't exist anymore. I tell you what, glad to be in Omaha. Love this market, love this city. Our two oldest boys were not born here, but they grew up here. And our youngest was born here, and he's now a freshman in high school. And my wife Sarah and I, we love it here.
Nice. So I know the journey towards Union Omaha was a bit interesting. So if I remember correctly, the original plan was actually to go for a G League team and play at Ralston Arena, correct?
That is correct. Either Ralston or Baxter, but we never got that far because once we were given the territorial approval and started talking to some NBA teams, the NBA leadership and ownership decided that they wanted their individual NBA clubs to own and operate their G League teams. And, Gary and I, along with another business partner, Larry Botel, we just said, look, if we're going to operate in the Omaha market or any market, we need to be the majority shareholder. So that's when Gary, quite honestly, shifted his focus to the
NASL, I think, right?
NASL, yes,
Yeah.
NASL at the time, and he realized that probably wasn't financially stable for very long. He was right, and then we started conversations with the USL, and we thought we were going to be a USL championship club that would be affiliated with Sporting KC. That ended up not coming to fruition. Gary took about a 6-month step back, and then in 18, that's when the USL decided to launch League One. And then that's when conversations really heated up for Union Omaha. And then in early May, I think it was May 1st of 2019, we held a press conference here at Werner Park announcing the franchise, not a name, but announcing a professional soccer franchise. And that was quite a great day because we also introduced our head coach that day, Jay Mims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's been interesting kind of seeing a lot of baseball ownership groups kind of getting into soccer. I think in League One, besides Omaha, most famously, even though they don't want you to know it, Forward Madison actually runs several minor league teams, including one in Madison. You have the NOCO ownership group, who is not involved with a minor league team, but they're a non-affiliated minor league team. One Knoxville has a couple baseball owners for their team there, as well as a few teams in championships such as Memphis. And you even have a lot of baseball, AAA, AA baseball guys moving into soccer. Why do you think the move to soccer has been so appealing for so many people that started off as baseball employees?
Hey, well, the growth of the USL since the mid '90s has been that's really what's pushed the growth of the game in North America. At least that's my opinion. I know MLS has grown a lot since that same time frame, but much like the Omahas and the Visalias and the Greenville, South Carolinas are really the feeder for major league fans on the baseball side, the same is true for soccer. And the more that soccer builds out, the more soccer fans we're going to create in non-traditional soccer markets. So for me, I think that's probably the biggest thing is folks like us that are operators of professional sports franchises who are community-based and community-minded, we see it as another opportunity to reach some of our baseball fan base, but the majority, 85 plus, 90 plus %, are new potential eyeballs and fans and supporters and community activists, whatever you want to call them, with all the different things that we're engaged in. So I think it's new. I also think I think with the World Cup coming in 2026, and it's been talked about now for better part of a decade, I think that probably has fueled some of the fire as well.
Yeah, and it's super exciting to see the growth. I think some of the numbers that I've heard is they want to be up around 40 some teams in championship and something similar for League One. And so you're looking at a lot of exponential growth just in the USL space. Plus you have NISA at the same level, and then all the USL2, NPSL, all those other amateur leagues as well growing. So it seems like there's going to be a soccer team in every single city in America by the 2030, 2040, which is definitely different than it was 10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned all the minor league, primarily AA and AAA clubs, where soccer continues to be played, such as where our new head coach, Dominic Casciato, came from in El Paso, where the Chihuahuas play there, as well as Locomotive. You're moving away. You're seeing the move away from baseball and soccer in the same venue. Memphis is working on their new facility. We obviously have been working on ours since spring of 21. El Paso has been working on theirs for a number of years, and some have made the move. Lou City used to play, with the Louisville AAA club, and so on and so forth down the road. So it's exciting to see not just the growth of soccer, but soccer-specific facilities as well.
Which we'll get into later, which is probably why most people are tuning into this right now. So I guess with some of that, I know we've chatted before about some of the differences between like soccer consumers and baseball consumers. So what do you think some of the biggest differences, whether it's spending habits, game viewership? I know this quote you're going to use already, and I'm excited to hear it because it's a fun quote, but about outcomes of games. So kind of what's the difference between those two fan bases and how they choose to consume their sport of choice?
Baseball is more traditional. Baseball, as in minor league baseball, in some form or fashion has been around as we are today since 1907. Obviously, the last 26 months have dramatically changed our industry, with MLB taking us over and changing a variety of things, contracting 43 markets. And our game, some would say, is being revolutionized. Some would say is being broken down. I happen to be on the side it's being broken down, because less is not more, when it, as I just said a few minutes ago, about growing fan bases and growing fans. And those markets that did get contracted do have clubs, like you mentioned, the Northern Colorado club. They used to be an affiliated club, and now they're basically a summer league baseball team. Well, summer league's been around forever. The Jayhawk League, the Northwoods League, the Cape Cod League, so on and so forth. So MLB did not invent anything new like they told a lot of those markets they did. So you've got baseball coming here, and on the soccer side, you've got soccer growth. And I think part of that, to answer your question, it gives a little bit of the difference in fans. It's a younger demo. We have technology like never before. We're connected like never before. Our attention spans, right or wrong, are not where they were. They're here, and we are able to sit down and watch a 1-hour television program in 42 and a half minutes. If you DVR through and fast forward through commercials, you don't have to sit for an hour. So I think part of the appeal of soccer is, you can get, if you're in the soccer venue by 6:55, for example, you're probably going to be out of the venue by 9:05, 9:10 at the latest, unless we have some unusual extra time, which we've never had that here when the Owls have been up. Not at all, Chip. So, I think some of that has to do with attention span and the changing of society. The other thing is, because of technology and because of cable television and how many stations and streaming and everything we have, you used to not be able to watch soccer and international soccer. And I know it's been on Saturdays and Sundays for years, but now it's not just being able to watch it on network television. You can watch soccer. I'm sitting here watching it across. It's here in our office, on a screen in our office right now. And I think the access to soccer, and it's year round, the access to soccer, you can always watch, and there's always a cup going on or a tournament, or there's something happening. And because the players move from continent to continent and league to league, yes, baseball's long been an international sport, but if a player from the Dominican doesn't play in the States, he's not going to Japan. He's either going to play in the States or he's not going to play. But a player that may play in Spain can come play in the U.S. or go to Peru or go to wherever. So I think the international appeal and the access to being able to follow players wherever they go, at least for me, still being somewhat of a soccer, I'm not going to call myself a rookie anymore, but a novice, someone that's learning. To me, that's been some of my observation. And, and then another difference is soccer it doesn't have roots in America. The roots are international, as we were just talking about. Baseball was rooted here. So I think transplants, or people that have transplanted themselves from name a continent to the United States, they have brought some of that love of soccer and some of that passion for soccer, and quite frankly, have taught Americans about soccer. And I think really that's played out over the last 20 years as well.
Yeah, it's been crazy watching it grow, even in my lifetime. So, like, my buddy's dad, for instance, played soccer at Creighton in the 80s. And he talks about how in St. Louis, to watch the World Cup in the 70s, he had to go to a movie theater and watch it on tape delay. So he said that his dad loaded them all up from their club team. They went to the movie theaters and they just sat there and watched games on delay for 6 hours on a random Saturday to watch guys play. And now it's like, you can watch it on my phone. I can watch it on the TV. I can walk into any bar in Benson and watch it, which is crazy.
But I think that's the difference as well. I think the commitment, when you're a soccer fan, you're all in. And when you're a baseball fan, okay, 150 Storm Chasers games. There's 32 Union Omaha games. And that's the other thing. It's easier to be a fan an entire season long in any sport other than baseball. And I think that has also hurt baseball. And, we used to be at 140 games. Now we're at 150 on the AAA side. So, it's not easier to sell more inventory. It's more difficult. On the soccer side, it's different. You have fewer games. If you miss one, it's 1/16 of your schedule. If you miss a baseball game, I'm not going to say so what, but so what?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. So this, but for some of the listeners that are new, I had my first child back in August of this year. And so I missed about a month of games. And I was really popular because I had a lot of tickets to give out. But, man, it was great to get back. Since, it's so much better watching in person than it is online.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's really, I think part of it too is with soccer, you want to be there. Watching on TV is great. I've been a Bayern Munich fan for 20 plus years, but it's not the same as going in and watching Union Omaha, even though Union Omaha is miles inferior to Bayern Munich. And it's just so much fun watching that in the community that's built around it and everything else. And so I know what everyone's waiting to hear, but I guess real quick, for any aspiring baseball ownership groups that are looking into getting into soccer, what would some of your advice be for them as they would look to buy a soccer team or transition from a AAA employee into a soccer employee or anything like that?
Yeah, I think one of the differences that I found is people that are in more traditional American sports or work in front offices have more business background, if you will.
Mhm.
And I found that in soccer front offices there are more soccer fans of the game. It doesn't mean that there aren't baseball fans or football fans working
Mhm.
in baseball and football offices. It just means that there are more soccer fans that are Union Omaha or Greenville Triumph or whatever club,
Mhm.
and that can be a good thing, but it can also be a challenging thing. We all have to sell tickets. Empty seats don't eat no hot dogs. And we have to sell tickets. We have to generate new interest. We can't just rely on renewing a season ticket group. For example, I tell this a lot to people that are new into sales. It's great to renew at 90% of your
Mhm.
season ticket base every year, or group base, or sponsorship. Pick a category, doesn't matter.
Mhm.
But I'm going to focus on season tickets. But in 10 years, you've turned over your entire ticket base. So how do we renew at 91? How do we renew at 95? How do we renew at a higher rate? And that really is about relationships.
Mhm.
At the same time, you can't just focus on renewal sales. You need to be growing the brand, and we need to be out hitting the streets, beating the pavement, and whether it's Chasers baseball or Union soccer, educating the community not only on what the sport is and what we do in venue, but what we do in the community. And that's really where minor league sports or lower level professional sports really, I think we have an advantage over the Kansas City Royals or the Colorado Rapids or wherever. Pick your major league team.
Mhm.
We're still professional, but we live and breathe in our communities. We are in the schools. We are at the food bank. We're open door mission. Just pick wherever it might be, and that's what I would share with any baseball owner trying to get in soccer is it's the same from a business perspective related to day-to-day business. Yes, how you message, how you market, how you social media, and the sport, those things are different. However, don't lose track that it's about sales, relationships, sales, community relations, sales, marketing. There's a theme there, and no matter how catchy your brand is, no matter how shiny your stadium is, it's still about relationships and sales ultimately.
Yeah, and I think that's been the coolest part. So I've been to a couple League One venues now in the going on 4 years. We've had a program, and it's crazy that every single stadium, the GM, the president, the owner of the team are all out there shaking people's hands, thanking them for coming out. Like, you don't see that when we went to the SKC. You didn't see that. When I've been to other professional sports, you don't see that. Marcus Blossom isn't, fist bumping me at the end of Creighton games as I walk out with 18,000 people. And so that's been like the really cool part about this is being involved and seeing ownership and, getting time for stuff like this. And then even the community aspect, I think is cool. I think I'm wearing it today. The Raptors. So this is a youth club that they're in South Omaha, and it's completely free, which is different than a lot of club sports are. So that makes it really cool. And I know back in 2021 for the final, we were able to get everybody from their organization out to a Union Omaha game through the donated ticket program. They were able to do it again last year through the same donated ticket program. And then they're doing some training with the technical staff now because of that relationship that they've built, which, if this was SKC, they'd probably say, well, are you an affiliated club? And if you're not, like, see you later.
Yeah.
Even if your
Yeah.
mission's great, or even if you're in the community. And I think that's kind of the cool thing about all of this is being in the community. And like, if we were an SKC feeder club, you probably, wouldn't see the players out and about all the time. They, you guys wouldn't be chatting with us as much. I don't know who their owner is, but I'm sure he wouldn't be coming on our League One podcast to talk about the Omaha, Sportings or whatever they'd call them.
Yep. Well, look, you bring up a great point, and this is where I want to give Gary Green some credit. I've been doing this since '96, as I said, and professionally since '99 was my first year. So a bunch of years in there. When Gary first came to the market was August of 11, and I gave him a tour of Omaha, and he quickly realized it wasn't just corn rows and cows and so on and so forth. And he was like, okay, I get it. It's a great community. I understand. And then he ultimately bought the Storm Chasers in June of 12 from a timeline perspective. And one of the first things he asked me was, what do I need to do? And I wasn't sure exactly how I was supposed to answer that. But my answer to him was, be engaged. Don't just be involved. Be engaged. There's a difference. You can show up to work and be involved, but what are you doing when you're at work? What are you doing when you're in the stadium? You can go to a game and be involved, but if you're at the front gates, if you're going through the suites, if you're talking on podcast, if you're, are you responding to emails? And he really has gotten engaged. And this is his second community. He loves Omaha, both from a baseball and now from a soccer perspective. And, I'm honored to have worked for him now for close to 11 years. Man, time flies. So, I give him a lot of credit. And the other thing is, because of starting the franchise when we did, no one knew a pandemic was going to start in less than 12 months from when we made the announcement. Gary and the ownership group are not given enough credit for making sure this happens. Because I can tell you, losing our first year to COVID, and I know we played an abbreviated schedule, but we were limited to 2,350 in capacity and then 2,550 and so on and so forth. You do not get the first year back, whether it's ticket sales, whether it's merchandise sales, whether it's in-park attendance. And I would tell you, we're still playing catch up because we started during COVID. So Gary doesn't get enough credit, along with the ownership group, of what they've done to make sure soccer has a potential future in the Metro. And ultimately, at some point in time, it's going to be up to the community and soccer fan to make this fly beyond what we've done at Warner Park.
And before we transition, I just have one more thing. So baseball, stereotypically for baseball to sell tickets, it's all about promos, right? Dollar beer night, dollar hot dog night, free t-shirt for whatever charity. In League One, and I think Championship too, I think the only side that I think that has gone like full in on like minor league baseball style promotions is Ford Madison. Because I don't know if you follow that at all, but they'll do like $50, get you 2 midline tickets, lobster roll, and 2 t-shirts or something. Like, why do you think they're the only team that kind of has gone into the minor league promo route, despite there being lots of baseball guys hanging around the lower league soccer now?
Well, in talking to Connor, and Connor's become, I would call him a mentor on the soccer side, because he came from college athletics and baseball before they got into soccer, as you mentioned. And he is one that realizes that as much as any of us may want this to be about soccer and winning soccer matches on the field, it's not. It's about how many people can you get into the building, how many tickets can you sell, and then turning them on to soccer if they are not soccer fans. And as much as that may pain some people to hear me say that or hear Connor practice that in Madison, I wish that someone would have told me that before we started in 2019, 2020, because I thought applying those principles and practices would be the better route. But I was told by longtime soccer folks that wasn't the route, that we needed to be different. And I think we're naturally different anyway. Based on time and based on not venue yet, but based on the pitch versus a diamond and so on. So I'll go through all the differences. But even when Peter Marlette got here, I said, hey, I've had some potential sponsors that, want to do a mascot, but I've been told, oh, soccer, you don't have mascots. And even Peter, when Peter got here, he said, heck yeah, let's do a mascot. So, even Peter, who played soccer professionally and is a longtime soccer, he understands that it's got to be about market and it's got to be about mix and match, that it can't be about traditional this or traditional that. But, it's not unlike minor league baseball that there are some promotions here that won't work in Sacramento or vice versa. So it's the same with soccer. Not everything that works in Madison is going to work in Omaha or is going to work in Greenville. But yeah, they do it great. For Madison, for example, they love midweek games. They sell their midweek games heavier than they sell their weekend games a lot of times. And
Hmm.
that's not the case yet in Omaha. In Omaha, as we prefer Saturday nights versus a Wednesday night match. But
Sure, you
no,
heard
it's
no
different.
belly aching about the Wednesday games this year.
Excuse me?
I'm sure you didn't hear anybody complain online about the Wednesday games this year.
Yeah, no, not at all. But schedules are what they are, and
Mhm.
we're going to do the best we can with it, and we know that we're going to have great support. But so for us, it's finding the happy medium. It's not being a soccer club, it's not being a baseball club, and I'm speaking for both Chasers and
Mhm.
Union. It's finding what's the best for our market with that specific sport, and we're still finding our footing. There are a lot of things we couldn't do, even if we wanted to do promotions in 2020 and on into 21. There are a lot of things we couldn't do if we wanted to. Now I think the handcuffs are off a little bit more than they have been, and you'll see some different things. We're talking about different giveaways. We're talking about different themes than we've done in the past,
Mhm.
and they may or may not be similar to baseball.
Yeah.
They may be more similar to basketball or football. Who knows? But we're really looking at things through a new lens this year.
Mhm. Well, I'm excited because I know that Oktoberfest promotion has been really great for the club. I think you get a lot of people in early, get a lot of people hanging out 4 hours before the game out in a parking lot drinking beer. Like it's awesome, and especially in a community that Oktoberfest. For those of you who aren't in Omaha, there's got 25, 26 Oktoberfest around town. Not to mention all the Oktoberfest in Lincoln and surrounding communities. So it's definitely a cool thing to see the team latch on and kind of go for that stuff. And yeah, I think it'll be exciting to see some of the promo stuff you guys cook up this year. But I stepped on your awesome transition earlier, so I won't do that again. So speaking of that and kind of growing, what do you think kind of the next step for Union Omaha to grow into, like a hermit crab shedding its shell, maybe, is what do you think the next step for Omaha is, and what are you guys planning or hoping to get done?
Well, if you're talking specifically stadium, which I think that's where you're leading, we started with CSL, which is Convention Sports Leisure. They're a feasibility group. They're part of Legends.
Mhm.
They're the leader in this space. They did CHI Health Arena. They also did Schwab, and we haven't talked about it, but they also did Warner Park for Sarpy County. So
Mhm.
we hired them in April of 21, and in August of that same year, they delivered a package to us that said yes, a soccer specific facility for pro soccer, adding for special events, adding for women's, so on and so forth. That's viable for the Omaha metro area. Obviously, they gave us, some of the cons and some of the things and challenges we would need to look for, and to make sure that they weren't pitfalls for us. But they also gave us locations and gave us, demo looks. So it was a real well-rounded approach. We then hired a company called McCullers Sports Group, led by Mark McCullers. Mark used to work for the Lamar Hunt family,
Mhm.
and he's headquartered out of Columbus. Why Columbus? He built and opened the first soccer-specific stadium in the country back in 98, 99 with the Crew. So he has history of doing something that everyone said, why are you doing this? This makes no sense. Why are you doing this, in the late 90s when everyone else was playing, in essence, in a football stadium for the most part,
Mhm.
American football stadium for the most part. So that's the group. That's our team. We have some other folks locally from a legal and lobbying perspective that are on our team, but we went to work. We went to work looking at this long term. What does this mean for 24, 25, 26? Um, Obviously, COVID hung around a little bit longer than any of us thought, so we really kind of had two, I don't want to call them dead years, but pretty much two dead years as it
Mhm.
related to new facilities. So really in 22 is when those conversations kicked in. We've had conversations with the city going on for about a year, but more specifically, the regular cadence has been since this past fall, and there's been support there. And then we've had a number of conversations with many sites. I personally
Mhm.
drove and considered 26 to 27 sites. We boiled those down to about half a dozen, and we've narrowed those down to even more than that now. And it's primarily, north of Q, east of 72nd, even though we looked at all three counties, Pottawatomie, Douglas, and Sarpy. And then we boiled it down really east of 42nd and north of Martha. So
Mhm.
that's where we are. That's where we're looking. in that northeast north area, if you will, of the metro, and that's real. That's where we are. That's where we are today.
Yeah. So the plan right now is 10,000 people for the stadium. Kind of, how did you guys get to that number for a stadium? Because that would make it bigger than, I think, the majority of USLC franchises, which is also kind of part of the transition plan of building the stadium as well. Correct?
It is. It is to move up. We would need a soccer specific. That's something we've been told. 10,000 is a number as it relates to LB 621. As well as the upcoming 622, and I'm not going to go on record by saying the stadium capacity is going to be 10,000 because if there are 100 steps in design, we're on step 3 right now. There's a long way to go, and there's a lot of debate internally on should the capacity be 7, 8, 9, 10,000, and then should the fixed seating be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000. Because fixed seats are different than capacity. So I think we're probably going to end up with a capacity of somewhere between 8,500 and 10. I think it'll be in there somewhere. And then fixed seats, I think, will be somewhere between 5,500 and 7,500. I think that's probably where the fixed seat number ranges. A lot of that depends on what your party areas look like, what your supporter section looks like, where your overflow area looks like, your suites, so field level seats, so on and so forth. So there's a lot to flush out, but yes, capacity somewhere between 8 and 10, fixed seats somewhere between 55 and 75. I think those are fair numbers. And while they're fairly wide ranges, I'm not sitting here telling you a capacity of 5 to 10 and fixed seats of 3 to 10. We at least have a fairly good idea of where we would end up.
Well, I know you've just excited a lot of people with the comment about potentially having safe standing for supporter sections. That's something that I know in Greenville they have, in Madison they have, and it's something that people really enjoy, being able to stand up, but also have somewhere to put your beer instead of like having a flag in one hand and your beer in the other while you're sitting on the berm trying to sing along. So
we're not going to transfer the same exact McDonald's berm to wherever the new facility is. It could still be the McDonald's supporter section, but who knows?
Sponsorship opportunities available.
Yes, absolutely. You know me.
But I think it's really exciting too. I think I'm not sure if you saw this online, but someone put together a chart about USL stadiums in relations to the downtown of the cities that they're in. And Omaha was like the furthest away, 15 miles plus from downtown. This would put us like one of the closest to downtowns of all the teams in the country.
I have not seen that. I saw the season ticket one that someone put out yesterday.
I'll send it to you. But that's exciting. I think especially, so for those of you that aren't in Omaha, there's currently a streetcar proposal that's tied to some downtown development. And if we are in North Downtown, it'd actually be on a mass transit line, a fixed mass transit line. So you could go all the way from about, call it Midtown, all the way downtown to the soccer stadium. So you could have you could do a little bar crawl on your way down there where you never left the train. So it's pretty exciting, especially to see it kind of go into a downtown area where there's a bit more than there is out at Warner Park. Still sad that the pizza spot moved.
I agree. I love Caniglia's. It's great.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And I guess long term, was there a lot of consideration for building out by Warner Park? I know that's something that had been tossed around a lot. There's a lot of open land out there. Was it kind of the decision that soccer should be kind of more centrally located inside the city?
Well, feasibility study told us what you just said. It should be more centrally located or specifically located. But our current metrics tell us a lot of different things. We have more season ticket holders from the 68046 zip code, which still blows me away to this day. When
that's
people
West
tell
Omaha, right?
It's Papillion specifically. It's not even West Omaha. So, and then some of the other high ones are Bennington, Blair area. And even going out towards the Ashland area. So, and that's just ticket holders. That's not sponsors, and then from a sponsor's perspective, sponsors look at things different a lot of times. It is about number of eyeballs, but a lot of our sponsors have said, if it's not broke, why fix it? And they were specifically talking about Warner Park though. And that's sometimes when it's difficult when we have our crossover sponsors, well, this isn't about Warner Park. This isn't about baseball. This is about soccer. And I think once we got past that, I think they understand that. But for us, I share that, and I'm being transparent with that. we have our work cut out for us, because if we do land at X spot, and I don't want to give any cross sections or cross streets today, but if we do land at X spot, in that quadrant that I told our listeners about earlier, we have our work cut out for us. Then we'll have the reverse. Okay, well, do I want to drive down there? Do I want to keep my tickets? And that's where it comes in. We started the conversation earlier about, what to tell a baseball owner coming into soccer. It's still about sales and relationships. It's still about sales and relationships, and we need to continue to do that. So, we are maybe at midfield, if you will, on our process. We've started the legislative process, as everyone now knows, this past week, and we'll continue onward with that. And it's different for me than the 2008 through 2011 two baseball stadium in the same community. Only two baseball stadiums in the country that opened in 2011 because of the recession that happened then. And all my colleagues around the country were like, "You guys are insane. You're opening two baseball stadiums." Yeah, and I said, and they're 15 miles apart. They're that close. So, this is a little different. This is us driving the ship a little bit more. Sarpy County really drove the ship for Warner Park, and I learned from that. But this is really us driving the ship, and as I always say, create your own future, create your own happiness, and we're in that process.
Cool. So we're going to get really technical, and we're going to go into Nebraska state politics and Nebraska state law real quick as we talk about some of the financing stuff for the stadium. So we're going to talk about three bills today. We're going to talk about LB 1021, which is the COVID. Essentially, it was the money from the federal government that was given to the state of Nebraska as part of the COVID relief efforts. We're going to talk about LB 621, which was what you were down in Lincoln talking about the other day, which is the proposal for $50 million from the state surplus to go towards construction of a stadium in North Downtown. We'll post a link to the article if you want to read more about it. And then we're going to talk about LB 622, which is stadium financing reform, which essentially if it passes, it would allow you guys to have essentially revenue bonds to pay for stadium construction, upkeep, maintenance. Not just you, but everybody who owns a stadium or entertainment venue, like the Steelhouse, which is the new Performance Arts Center, Ralston Arena, things like that. Correct?
Correct. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So you want me to go now? Can I? Yeah. I'm going to work backwards to the front. Backwards is the most easy one because it's existing legislation. We're just simply asking for a stadium of our size, to be added. And 622 is an amendment to an existing one, which it was the one that helped create CHI Health Arena or Schwab Field. So that one's the easiest for people to understand. We would be able to take advantage of already existing legislation, and it would be a turn back of a certain radius around the facility, and that would be in essence paid for by users and by people that would come to that entertainment district. So that's a pretty easy one. 621 shouldn't be that hard to figure out, but I'll explain it. The one that I testified at this week, it is not new tax dollars. This is from the state surplus that we've been running for a number of years.
$1.9 billion surplus.
Yes, thank you. And a large number of that, Director Tony Goins of Department of Economic Development is going to be managing that. And again, this is not new tax dollars. There are existing dollars that are in the coffers now, and we're asking not for free money, but we have proposed that if we raised, for example, if we raised $20 million, then the state would match it from this revenue surplus up to $40 million. So that could mean up to $60 million for the project, if you will. But we would have to go out and raise that money, whether it's privately raised, whether it's additional investors, whether it's philanthropic, or whether it's support from a business community. That would be on us. So that's what 621 is. Yeah. And then you mentioned
for 621, real quick. That's also money that Pillen, who is now our governor, has stated in his campaign promises is money that he wants to spend already. So that's already funding that's looking to build a reservoir for the water wars with Colorado. Part of that's like that big recreational lake they want to build. I think some of it's going to streetcar. And then the biggest thing he wants to do is essentially a property tax cut for the top income bracket of the state income tax, going from, I think it's 6.8 for the top bracket to 3.99. So this is money that's going to get spent regardless. It's not new tax revenue. It's not tax revenue on us. It's essentially, you're saying by giving us, matching the amount of money that we are raising ourselves privately, that is a good stewardship of that money for the state of Nebraska, because they'll see excess tax revenue from this. Because I think the initial, in the article, I think they said $14 million was what they estimated the annual economic impact to start would be. Is that correct, roughly?
Well, the first year would be 17.1 roughly for year one. And you're looking at the entire area, once the district would build out, would be about 450 net jobs. And, the other thing, Chip, I guess I'm going to segue a little bit from there. It's not just about jobs creation. This isn't just, this isn't spending money. This is an investment. This is an investment for people that live here that may have other opportunities in cities similar to Omaha, or this is about people that aren't from Nebraska, that maybe a builder trend or a Mutual of Omaha or someone is trying to recruit. We have to keep up with the Joneses. And I'm not saying in a soccer sense, I'm saying in a general entertainment sense, as well as socially, and what we want our state to be represented, so we can continue to keep talent here and stop the brain drain. So this is a part of that. So it's an investment. It absolutely is an investment. And the other thing, it's not just about jobs creation of those 450 or specifically 150 net jobs for the stadium itself specifically, but it would be an investment in a particular part of town beyond jobs. This would be about, how do we help lives from a perspective of education, internships, community events at the facility. So we're currently working on a CBA, a community benefits agreement. It is similar to what both Nashville and Cincinnati did. So that's something we're also doing behind the scenes right now, and we feel very strongly about that.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And then the last one, 1021, that is the COVID money, and that was passed last session. And so that was the one where initially the plan, or initially Union Omaha submitted to be a part of that plan, but then that was peeled off into this new 621 essentially.
1024. Yeah.
1024.
So 1024. And we were not included in the final. Olson and Associates did the feasibility study, and they made recommendations. And the book's not sealed on that yet, but we were not included as a recommendation in the first. There were other projects that were more important. And that's why we waited to roll out. That's why we did, we want to do 1024 first. Again, dollars that were federal dollars, not state dollars. And then we rolled into 621, 622, trying to be very cognizant of the taxpayer along the way.
Right. Gotcha. So essentially, like the cliff notes of this, while it is state money, it's not a new tax area. They're not going to have at least right now, not a new sales tax area. It is money from the state that is already earmarked to be spent on infrastructure projects inside the state. And part of that is for Omaha would be getting something that would help retain people inside of the Omaha metro and rehabilitate a part of town that has starting to see a lot of improvement, but could definitely use a shot in the arm to improve. I know I've jokingly sent Peter pictures before of empty lots down there. It'd be like, man, imagine a stadium here. So it's it'd be exciting, especially with CWS in that kind of general area, Creighton in that general area. There's a lot of really cool stuff down there. And I guess that's the other question is why not Creighton? Why wouldn't you guys try to partner with Creighton University, use Morrison Field? So for those of you outside of Omaha, Creighton University, a D1 program, has a 6,000 person some stadium, which of that like 2,000 is seated, and that's in a similar location. Omaha played a regular season game versus Tucson there in 2021, and then they played a U.S. Open Cup game there in 2022 versus the Des Moines Menace. So was that considered at all using Creighton?
Oh, actually, it was considered before we were even a franchise.
Hmm.
We visited with Creighton as early as 2017, 2018. There wasn't interest in a full capacity relationship. Obviously, Bruce Rasmussen has retired, and now Marcus Blossom is there, and we've had conversations with Marcus. And I would say that there's interest there, but we actually have a one-sheeter we've created because this is the question we probably get the most, and
Hmm.
we're sharing that as we socialize the idea, especially down in Lincoln. And here in a nutshell is this. This isn't about Union Omaha. This isn't about creating a women's team. This isn't about starting a youth academy. And this isn't about all the community events and programs and fundraising things that will happen at the ballpark. It's about all of it holistically. It's a multi-use facility. Well, to be able to do what we want to do in its entirety, we have to control the schedule 365.
Hmm.
Creighton's not going to be able to do that on their campus. They're not going to be able to say, okay, when can we play men's and women's soccer at Morrison Stadium? When can we have spring? So that's the first example. The second
Hmm.
example is one that speaks directly to that. We had two matches this year, March 26th and April 15th, coming up. Our first two matches of the year for Union that aren't going to be able to be played here at Warner Park. So, of course, we go to Creighton and we go to UNO. We have great relationships with both. We had 3 dates that worked for both. 2 of the 3 dates worked at UNO. 0 of the 3 dates worked at Creighton. And we're talking about the spring, which isn't
Hmm.
even it's not even college soccer season during that
Yep.
time. So that was disheartening on one hand that we couldn't play. We wanted to play one at each was really what our
Hmm.
goal was. But the disheartening part was there's not even a chance that we could figure out how we can manage a facility that is theirs where their home soccer teams play. So I don't know how else I can explain to anyone if those two
Hmm.
scenarios and examples don't answer that question, because that's not even getting to who controls suite revenue, who controls concessions and catering, who controls parking, who controls sponsorship revenue, who controls all that.
Hmm.
Who's going to pay for a $50 to $70 million renovation to add 3,000 seats, to add another 10 suites, to add 5 party areas, so on and so forth, 2 clubhouses. Actually, it would be 4 clubhouses. Yeah. So the money part of it would be easier than the scheduling part. So I
Hmm.
hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
I answered that one more than any single question about our project.
Yeah. I think every time it's been brought up from the rumor stage to this, which is as close to a actual announcement we've gotten, that's always the question is why not Creighton? And it's like, well, a lot of reasons, but
Yeah.
I think I think again, it's exciting. And I don't think that there's personally, I don't really think there's a reason there couldn't be two. And I think Creighton likes having control of their facilities and they're using theirs a lot, which is a good thing that we can have 2 facilities that are going to see a lot of use.
Chip, I've been through the 2 stadium thing, and people said it was crazy to build 2 baseball stadiums, but they are different. And you just said it. They're
Hmm.
different uses. They're different. And what excites us maybe most about this, we used Warner Park for 301 special events this year.
Hmm.
Well, we're the southwest part of the metro. We're talking about the northeast part of the metro. There's not a facility of this size that we're talking about that has the community minded aspect of the ownership and management. This would be a tremendous opportunity in a different part of town. So, a variety of nonprofits can have somewhere to do fundraising events, community events, walks, whatever it might be, in an affordable outdoor venue. And you know me,
Hmm.
that really excites me, and to be able to offer that we would have the entire community covered. We would have both, the east side and the west side covered. That's really exciting to me.
Hmm. Yeah, and it seems like a really exciting plan. And I guess that's kind of why let's end on that. If someone in Omaha or the state of Nebraska really feels strongly about this, what would you suggest that they do in order to let people know that they're in favor of 621 and 622?
Well, I think going and becoming educated on what they are. Read LB 621, 622, as you mentioned. The second thing is see who's on the committee. And if you live in the district of someone who's on the committee and you're in favor of it, let them know that. Both of these bills will need to make it out of committee onto the floor of the unicameral before anything positive could happen. And if you're a naysayer or you still have questions, ask. Call me at Warner Park. email me. My email's, on our websites. I want to answer questions, and we want people to be educated. And if you become educated and you're still opposed to it, that's all I can ask. Learn the facts first, and then if you haven't experienced Union Omaha soccer, come check out soccer. We're the third level of soccer here in the United States. We hope to be the second level within the next 3 to 5 years, and it's an exciting time, to be part of the Owls, to be part of Union Omaha. It really is. I'm fortunate. I'm learning a bunch of new tricks later in my career, and I'm fortunate to be a part of it. And if you haven't watched soccer yet, this brand of soccer that we have is great, and I can't wait to see Coach Casciato and the Owls take the field on March 26th.
Perfect. Well, hey, if people want to get a hold of you online, what's your Twitter tag if they want to ask you some questions or have any comments about the episode?
Yeah, at Chasers Prez, at Omaha Prez, and Prez is Prez. That's my Twitter handle, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I've had a number of business professionals have connected with me there already this week, asking questions about the possible stadium, and those are the best two spots. And you can call the soccer office or the baseball office, and they'll route you to me as well.
Perfect. Well, for Walkin 90, I'm Chip Nelson. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next episode.